Welcome to the Amicable Divorce Network Podcast. My name is Tracy Moore-Grant, and I'm the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. Our podcast is here to educate those before, during, and after divorce, as well as divorce professionals, about all of the issues that impact a family law case. We are here to educate you about difficult topics, provide you new information, and also give solutions for how to navigate all of the issues in family law and still bring your family law case to an efficient conclusion. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Amicable Divorce Network Podcast. If you've been following along, welcome to Season 3. What we like to do at the Amicable Divorce Network, especially with the podcast, is to give you very realistic and practical advice on how to divorce both outside of court and divorce well, while saving your money, your energy, and preserving your sanity through divorce. Today, I am joined by one of our fantastic Amicable Divorce Network members, Muhammed. She is an absolute expert in the area of finance. She is a certified financial planner, a certified divorce financial analyst, and a certified amicable divorce professional. She is the founder of The Next Chapter Divorce and specializes in helping divorcing couples make informed, financially sound decisions that support amicable resolutions and long-term stability. Divorce is not just an emotional transition, it's a financial one. And often you have one bite at that apple when you're going through dividing these assets, so it is so important to get it right. And today we're going to be talking about the financial decisions in divorce that matter the most and how to make them amicably. A lot to say about you, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Tracy, and thank you for founding the Amicable Divorce Network. It's an amazing group of people.
Thank you for being a part of it and supporting it and having such a passion. First, just in the training that you have had and the certifications, it's obvious that you have a passion for helping people go through divorce. What led you to that sort of niche area of your financial work?
It really kind of evolved. On a personal level, I had some very good friends who went through difficult and expensive divorces, and they did not need to be as expensive, although unfortunately they were litigious situations. If they had known certain things, it could have saved them some money. On the professional side, I've been a financial professional for 25 years this year. Probably a few years ago, I realized, wait a minute, I have this great group of clients and several of them are divorced. There's some who are single, and then there's some who have remarried and are happily remarried, but are still on both sides with the singles and the remarried, still dealing with the ramifications of the decisions that they made during the divorce process of a financial nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I just thought, I want to be able to help during that process. So even though I can't wave a magic wand and fix things, I can at least give some insights and help these folks make informed decisions. Particularly with women, I also found that people would say, I just wanted to get out. Yeah. And so they rushed, right? Yeah. Or God forbid, did a DIY, which again, DIY can be good, but
not
if you don't know what you're,
a pension or an IRA, we see a lot of mistakes in that area. Let me take just a very quick detour because I want people to really understand what it means, because sometimes people just gloss over hearing all of these designations. But you are a certified divorce financial analyst. We call that a CDFA. That's the short letters for it. Explain to the people listening what that designation means, what the training is about, what the ongoing education is about for that particular designation.
Great question. And I have to tell you, like 10 years ago, I didn't even know about CDFAs. I actually found out about CDFAs through a CDFA who was close to retirement. And I was like, oh, what is that? And she explained, and I said, oh, that sounds interesting because I see lots of cases where that would be really helpful. So a certified divorce financial analyst is someone who goes through training. You have to study. In my case, I also took a class and so on, related just to the financial implications of divorce. Now, that's really important, Tracy, because in my personal experience, I can't speak for anyone else. I've been a certified financial planner professional for, it'll be 20 years this year, this July. And when I did the CDFA coursework, et cetera, it was just interesting to me that there are such unique things about the financial aspects of divorce. To give an example, there was one of my first cases was a case where we had just everything, people in different states. We had somebody who wanted to stay in the marital home for like a decade and so on. I was working as part of a team. There was a financial planner, another CFP professional, myself, the clients, and they unfortunately were doing a lot of the things themselves, but I was able to give them some knowledge that the certified financial planner professional did not know. And it's not that he wasn't good. He was great at what he did, but he was not trained in the financial aspects of divorce. A
specialist, really. I mean, I always explain to people, whether it comes to mortgage or finance or whatever it is as you're going through divorce, you want to look for those specialists.
Yes.
Because it's very much like you have a heart issue, you're going to the cardiologist. You're not going to a general practitioner. You're going to somebody that specializes in this area, which is divorce. And so a lot of people might know somebody, they're a financial planner or, realtors, mortgage professional. But really, when you're going through this unique process of divorce, it's important to find the correct professional for that and to get you through properly. So I think it's also important for people to understand, let's say they are approaching divorce and they want to understand, for example, do they need you, what it is that you do in your work and what your work with a divorcing either individual or couple looks like. How do you really enhance and help the divorce experience?
Yeah, well, I mean, in that case, for example, I knew that the outspouse, the spouse who was not staying in the marital home, could preserve his $250,000 tax exclusion pursuant to the divorce. Of course, I'm not a tax advisor, so I said, hey, here's the code, here's the information. You really need to work with your attorney and your tax advisor to make sure the language is right in the decree, right? But, I mean, that's one example. Yeah. Literally could save him tens of thousands of dollars, right? And again, it's not always so magical, right? If the math is not mathing, sometimes the benefit is realizing that. Yeah. There are people who just they go into it not realizing that, wait a minute, I can't actually afford to sustain myself if I take this particular offer, right? So it can be as simple as that. Can be getting more complicated with pensions or different things. I had a case where it was let's just say an executive with like RSUs and all kinds of things. And the spouse was like, hey, this offer seems a little low. I took a look at it. I said, it does look a little low compared to what the marital estate is, and as it turned out, there was a lack, even though it was a resolution focused process of mediation, there was a lack of transparency. And when you're doing it on your own, I get calls every week, Tracy. I don't know if this happens to you, but I get calls because of the nature of what I do every week, mostly women. And it goes something like this. We got divorced 3 to 5 years ago. We did it ourselves. He said he had this, and I found out he has, more than that. Or I didn't know about the pension, or I didn't know this, that, and the other.
It's often the executive compensation or sort of unusual things. I get all the emails for the Amicable Divorce Network. I get all of the DMs on social media when people are reaching out to this. And this is a very popular conversation or reach out. I think you're absolutely correct. What I see a lot is that people, particularly women, don't want to mess with it. They don't want to rock the boat. They just want to get divorced, and they trust that their spouse is being transparent and telling them everything. And you're going through a divorce. You're divorcing this person for a reason. And so they just want to, double check some of those things. I find a lot of times people don't want to take the time to hire a financial professional to value the RSUs, which is a restricted stock unit for those, who are listening. They're just like, I don't care about those and don't understand it. and they just sort of gloss over it, really to their detriment. And,
Absolutely.
And it can't be, it's a bell that can't be unrung. You reach a financial settlement that is final and conclusive, whereas some other issues like child support and custody can be readdressed due to certain circumstances. People don't often understand the financial door is shut. You get one bite at that apple.
Yeah, and it's, to my understanding, when I'm getting a call like that, I'm like, hey, unless you can prove fraud or misrepresentation, you can't do anything. But here are the names of some attorneys who can help you, because that's not me. I can't undo it. Whereas if you think about it, if I was involved earlier on, just by nature of being, I think any of us in the divorce, any of us who are in the divorce world,
Right.
We understand that people, whether intentionally or unintentionally, often forget or leave out certain assets or facts or whatnot, or, oh, you can take this, I'll take this, it's 50-50, but the tax implications on this.
And I think one of the big misconceptions is people think because things aren't fully vested.
Right.
Like, oh, that doesn't vest for another 3 years, that it has zero value, and that is incorrect.
That is absolutely incorrect. So you're right, whether it's restricted stock units, whether it's a pension, there are calculations that are done based on the number of years of marriage and the number of years that the person has been paying into the pension. There are all kinds of things that can be done.
Yeah.
But if you find out after the fact, it's way more expensive, if not impossible.
Yeah. It's not impossible, but it's a very high burden to prove that somebody defrauded you. And I want to talk just for a second about the amicable divorce process, because I think people have a misconception that this is a DIY, this is, not a process that is serious, so to speak, but we do make full financial and otherwise disclosures. Each party does that. You can serve discovery and get your questions answered. We also use a program called detour.life where people actually sync their accounts so that we can search the transactions for transfers, historical data, things like that, and then people verify that everything they've put in the system is complete and true and correct as the system updates. So we do get that verification of the finances. Even though this process is out of court, there's something that you can rely upon in reaching your settlement. In your experience, what would you say, we've talked on some of these issues, but how does an amicable approach to the divorce support people's long-term goals in their divorce decisions?
Well, one thing I've learned, whether it's through collaborative groups that I'm part of, the Amicable Divorce Network, mediation training, even though I am not a mediator, I am very much in awe of people like yourself who are mediators, because it's a special gift, is that it's really when people come to an agreement themselves as opposed to a third party, a judge, making that agreement, they're more satisfied and more likely to adhere to the terms of that agreement because they've been heard, their voice mattered. And I see that. I mean, I was in a meeting last night with one of the collaborative groups I'm part of, and something that I get out of that more than, let's say, lots of collaborative cases, more of my cases are amicable than necessarily collaborative, is just that knowledge and us sharing different ways to talk to people where we're not encouraging them to do something that they would not otherwise do. We are essentially helping them find their voice. So just asking questions to help them figure out what is it that you want, and then you need to convey that to your spouse, usually through a neutral party like a mediator or
a lot of times it's
like
hard
that.
for people to have those discussions. Number one,
Yeah.
they're maybe too emotional, or number two, I find, especially in finances, they're afraid of saying the wrong thing. And they're like, I don't want to talk about it incorrectly or convey the wrong understanding of an asset or a debt. And so that is, I think, really important for people to understand. I am an attorney, I represent clients, I'm a mediator, I'm an arbitrator, and when I'm doing amicable cases, very often I am recommending that the client get a certified divorce financial analyst, because it's really important for people to understand. I'm a lawyer. I can tell you what the law is. That's my lane, and I am actually only allowed to stay in that lane. I have many disclosures. I do not give financial advice. I am going to kick that can right to the right professional to do that, and that gives them the best and most accurate advice. Do not be getting that information from your lawyer. They shouldn't be giving that advice. That is an overstep, just as it is for other professionals to give legal advice. But building the correct team is actually less expensive, because your attorney is the highest paid person on the team. You don't want them doing extra work, and it's going to get you to the correct outcome. That is an informed outcome for the case, as opposed to doing it yourself or guessing or using the wrong person for the issue that you have. What financial misunderstandings do you find create the most conflict in cases?
Some of the things that we've talked about, just not understanding the nature of the assets.
Yeah.
Not understanding tax implications. Yeah, that a house or the equity in a house is not the same as cash.
Yeah.
I was the financial neutral on a case recently where I was really surprised to learn that their way of, getting to an equitable distribution was one of the spouses giving some of their retirement, which, by the way, was not the kind where you can waive, like where the 10% penalty would be waived.
Okay.
And it was just, there was that, and they were going to pay off some debt. And I spoke to the mediator and I just said, hey, here's like the information as to why that may or may not be a good thing, pros and cons. Because again, I'm not the mediator.
Right.
I'm not supposed to steer one person or the other in a particular direction. But I said, I just want you to have the pros and cons.
Yeah.
As it turned out, that mediator, that attorney understood,
Some don't.
that, which was good.
Yeah.
But I couldn't sleep until, even though it was outside of the scope of what they had hired me to do, I wrote an email with citations and so on. And I said, I just want you to be aware of this so that you can, if you want to, convey it to them so that both parties are making an informed decision.
Yeah.
So I would say that there are just so many different things like that. Not knowing that when there's a quadro involved, you can take a one-time distribution without penalty. Not to say that that's the best thing in the world, but knowing that can be helpful.
Yeah.
Just understanding, the marital home. Oh my gosh, Tracy.
Yeah.
That's
a whole other episode probably.
Yeah, it's literally, we could have a whole series on this. It could be one season for you.
Yeah, especially with interest rates these days. I mean, I've been doing this as long as you have, 24 years, and so have just seen the market, crash up, down, interest rates all over the place, and how much that really impacts your options and decision making with the house.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing. The same way that you involve CDFAs is the same way that I'll refer clients to a CDLP, a Certified Divorce Lending Professional, or there are mortgage professionals who are fantastic at divorce work because they do a lot of it and they're not CDLPs, but it has to be someone immersed in it because then they can advise like, okay, do you have access to an assumption?
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons of a particular spousal support settlement? Like, do you need to have certain amounts? So, going back to your question, the marital home, there are people who fight for the marital home. They get it and then realize, I can't afford this. Yeah. Or I can afford it.
On this deadline. I see that a lot where people have reached these agreements themselves that they'll do something in like 90 days or something absolutely crazy, and it's like, that's not practical. You didn't ask anybody first, about these different issues. I hear a lot as well, a lot of the time, that people think that if it is in one spouse's name, that it's theirs.
That is so true. That's why I was saying, I'm sorry to be so excited about this.
It's not marital, it's not in the pot. Oh, that's in his name, and so that's just still out there. Yeah.
So I know that I seemed super excited when you mentioned that, but that's why I said earlier on, intentionally or unintentionally, because some people truly believe that because it's in their name, it's separate. Yeah. You, of course, as a trained attorney, know that legally there are certain measures that need to be met to count as separate. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it was a gift or an inheritance. If you commingled it, that can cause all kinds of problems. And And when we're in love, we're like, what's yours is mine, right? So anyway, I have seen people who knew that hid it from their spouse. And then I've known people who didn't know because they're like, well, and then I've seen people who like they knew and they said, well, to heck with the law. It's mine. I did it. I'm the one who earned this or whatnot. So it's interesting how emotions can come into play.
Absolutely. Especially people feel like I'm the one that was working hard at this job, so this okay is mine, even though it was earned during marriage. So a lot of misconceptions about that. And it's always, if you're going through a divorce, have some legal advice, have some financial advice, because a lot of these things can't be undone. So do it right the first time and don't regret it later. You talked a little bit about being a financial neutral, but you also act as a financial advocate, which is a different hat in the divorce process. So what is the role of a financial advocate, and how does that work within the amicable divorce context?
Okay, so I'll give an example of an amicable situation, let's say mediation. So resolution focused, okay? But one spouse feels like, I've got this. Financially, I understand the nature of the assets and tax implications, all that kind of stuff. And the other spouse, usually what we call the non-CFO spouse, is like, I don't got this. I don't understand this. And sometimes, to be honest with you, they're being smarter about it. Because I think that sometimes people get a little cocky in terms of what their knowledge really is. And again, I'm a trained financial professional. I've been a certified financial planner professional for almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in July. And when I came into the divorce world, I realized, whoa, there are all these little nooks and crannies. So if you're a layperson and that's not your job or your area of expertise, I find it hard to believe that you're going to know everything about it. But that being said, obviously there are levels of understanding. And sometimes someone says, like, I just don't get it. I need some help understanding this, that, and the other, or even just taking the emotion out of it. I was reached out to by a couple who has legal training who were going to be getting a divorce, and they understood that they understand the legal aspect of it, but they just didn't understand the financial aspect of certain things. And so when I'm an advocate, I'm working for that one spouse, okay, not both. When you're neutral, it's all about just information. Like, here are your options.
Analysis, budgeting, some
exactly.
different things like that. But for the couple as a whole, here's the facts. But the advocate role is really like, here's what's best for you.
Yes, exactly. You analyze and then say, in my professional opinion, I would say this is what's best for you. Or this offer that you received, counter it, here's some numbers. And usually in that case, I don't know if it's like this in Georgia, but certainly in the DC metro area, Maryland, DC, Virginia, usually there are attorneys involved to review the memorandum of understanding to just help people, because the mediator can't weigh in.
Mediator also can't give financial advice either. So, or shouldn't be. That's a red flag. But
Exactly. So there are a lot of times that an attorney may call for their client. They're the attorney for this client who's on one side of the mediation and say, he or she needs some financial advice. And in that case, I'm working as an advocate, but I've been reached out to by their attorney. So that just brings up a good point that a lot of times professionals will recognize we need to work with someone else.
I don't know everything. I need some help here before I'm committing financial malpractice, so to speak. So, I think to point out is within the amicable divorce process, which is out of court and resolution focused, we do have financial professionals who act as neutrals and some who act as advocates. I've done it all sorts of different ways. It is whatever is needed for that couple, and we can certainly find the right professional for you. And if you're listening and you're hearing all these divorce professions, CDLP, CDFA, all of these things, you can find so many great professionals in our directory, and you can access that at Amicable Divorce Network or divorceamicably.com. Divorce Amicably is for the clients. You'll find information on there, all the podcasts on there as well, connecting to different topics that you can search for. Michelle, for everybody who's listening, I'm sure they're like, she's really sharp, but I want to work with her. She knows what she's doing. What is the best way for them to reach you?
The best way, the easiest way is to visit thenextchapterdivorce.com. That's my website. And right there, you'll see, book a consultation or schedule a free 15-minute discovery call. And it's easy as pie. My phone number is also listed on the website if you prefer to call.
And if you're driving and you're like, I'll never remember that, just save the episode. All of Michelle's information is in the show notes. And again, you can also find her in the Amicable Divorce Network directory. She's listed in a lot of states. Primarily, she's in Maryland, so you can definitely search that directory. And she's also listed as one of our certified amicable divorce professionals in that section of the website. Michelle, thank you so much for this great information and all that you do to help people divorce better.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for having me. And again, for creating the Amicable Divorce Network, because all the work that you do to connect all of us, it really helps support those who want to divorce amicably.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening.